all of you to our very first episode of the Moving Camp podcast. This podcast is presented by the Education and Development Department of the United Supreme Council, Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite, Prince Hall Affiliated, Northern Jurisdiction, USA Incorporated. My name is Sovereign Grand Inspector General Dr. Dwayne Thomas, and I serve as the Director of the Education and Development Department. At the 141st Annual Session in the 47th Triennial United Supreme Council, Sovereign Grand Commander Dr. Melvin J. Bazemore delivered his allocution and charged all in attendance to strive to be transformational leaders. He directed us to infuse positive change across the various orients by being knowledgeable, energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate concerning the business end of our beloved United Supreme Council. To that end, Dr. Bazemore established the United Supreme Council Education and Development Department. Dr. Bazemore charged the Education and Development Department to provide meaningful education to the members, which in turn will serve as a springboard to the promotion of lifelong learning. The Moving Camp podcast was born from this initial charge. The Moving Camp podcast is designated and designed to educate and to inform and to provide information across the various orients, and most importantly, discuss important issues as they affect our membership. So before turning the podcast over to our host and our very first honored guest, let me share with you an important lesson we all learned in the 24th degree, the Prince of the Tabernacle. We all learned that every Scottish Rite Mason can glimpse the symbolism, the parables, the allegories, the grand achievements, the knowledge of the sublime, and the profound truths and philosophies that have descended from the most wise and perfect master, our Heavenly Father. You see, the Moving Camp podcast is designed to engage our members and give all of our members a glimpse of both the sublime and the profound truths of Scottish Rite Masonry. I look forward to taking this journey with all of you. So now it is indeed my honor and privilege to introduce the host of the Moving Camp podcast, Sublime Prince Stephen Barrett. Stephen Barrett, Sublime Prince Barrett, is the current Commander-in-Chief, Pencilier Consistory Number 44, Valley of Lansing, Orient of Michigan. He is also a valuable member of the United Supreme Council Education and Development Department. I also have the honor and privilege to introduce our first honored guest, the Sovereign Grand Commander of the United Supreme Council, Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite, Prince Hall Affiliated, Northern Jurisdiction, in the person of Dr. Melvin J. Bazemore. Sir, it is indeed an honor to have you with us this evening. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
All right. So I appreciate it so much here, Sovereign Grand Inspector General Thomas. Like you said, my name is Stephen Barrett. I'm actually going to be the host of this. And for our first guest, again, I'm honored and humbled for him to be here with us, even though he's from Michigan, but we're going to have a lot of fun. One thing I want to walk through, because people ask, they're like, hey, why the Moving Camp podcast? So before we dive into the interview here for you, Sovereign Grand Inspector, Sovereign Grand Commander, let's walk through a couple of these things. The Moving Camp, as we're tasked as Scottish Rite Masons to basically fight the five plagues of humanity, which is ignorance, superstition, fanaticism, despotism, and ambition, we have to realize that as times changed, we have to change our activities. We have to change our viewpoint in attacking these things that are stopping us from growing. So through his leadership and his vision, we put together this moving podcast here, this Moving Camp podcast, so that we can be flexible with what's getting ready to happen on today. So again, Sovereign Grand Commander, I'm going to jump right into it. We've talked before, so hopefully if it's okay with you, we're just going to talk like nobody else is in the room, and we're going to have a dialogue if that's okay with you, sir. Is that all right?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's go. So I'm going to jump right into it. Now, there's a push for engaging the membership in various different ways. So I want to know, why did you feel it was important now more than ever for us to engage in the fratres, which is the plural form of frater, on every level, regardless of the cap, crown, rank, or grade, because that is a little bit different than what we're normally used to. But I've heard you speak on that numerous times. So why is that important to look at that now?
Sublime Prince, Barrett, that is an excellent question. And to be candid, because it was necessary. I believe that Plato was attributed with saying that necessity is the mother of invention. Mm. And when I took over as the Sovereign Grand Commander, our membership had decreased to less than 10,000 members. Now, mind you, I had been at this leadership game for 10 years. And one of the questions, and this didn't happen overnight. It was a continuous decline. And one of the things that really bothered me was why? Why are we losing our membership? And while there are a number of reasons, in my going around and asking the membership and those who were still part of the Scottish Rite, why are we losing our membership? Why are our consistories not being attended? And one of the primary answers that I received was that the membership didn't feel any sense of ownership in the process. And that, we were not focused on the general membership, which I say is the Sublime Princes and Grand Inspector Generals. And they didn't feel like there was any camaraderie in the organization where they could actually feel, a part of the process. Now, while I clearly understand the hierarchical structure of our Supreme Council, I also felt that in order for us to arrest the decline in membership, that we needed to solicit the input of all of our members. And as I always say, regardless of grade or color of crown. And as we continued in that process, we started including the ladies of the Golden Circle by creating the Order of the Golden Circle Working Group, in order that we could also find out from them, how could we better include them in enhancing the Scottish Rite Experience? So that was the primary reason why I decided to go in the direction that I went in.
No, and it shows great leadership too. And I think it's something that you talked about. I remember my first Michigan Council deliberation, you spoke about it, and I'll get into it a little bit later because I heard it, and you hear things, you're like, does he really mean it? But I think people are going to see in a testament that it is. And one thing I want to know is this podcast is a little bit different, right? So I want to know, how do you feel that this podcast and this medium and this mode that we're going to try to communicate, how does that help strengthen us talking between each grade, rank, cap, crown? Like, how does that fulfill your basically your ideas of being able to tackle and touch to everyone?
Well, to me, communication is a critical component of implementing any strategic plan. You've probably heard the proverbial question, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? Well, my question is, if we put together a strategic plan and no one hears about it, no one, even more importantly, buys into it, do we really have a plan, or do we just have words on a piece of paper? And I'm a firm believer in communicating with the membership to make sure that I didn't know will not be an answer. So this podcast is, to me, a vehicle to make sure that we get the word out there, that we are actually doing something different. To me, it's more than words, it's deeds and not words that are going to be the final arbiter of how successful we are in this process.
So that brings up something else, because I heard you say you were going through the line in about 10 years in your leadership and things were changing. Now, a little birdie told me, because I do my research, that you believe in servant leadership as well as leading from the front without micromanaging. So I want to know, like, coming up in like these changes that you're helping us to make, like over the time of you coming up to the ranks, how has your leadership philosophy either changed or did it improve? Did you increase on the philosophy you already had right now?
Well, I must admit that being around what some would call the old guard of elected leadership, I had to adjust my leadership style until I could get in a position where I could implement the change that I thought needed to happen and that was necessary to move the organization in a different direction. Now, it does not mean that their leadership was wrong. It's just meant that, their approach was not my approach. Mm-hmm. And, my thing is that I believe Albert Einstein says that, the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So therefore, when I got in the position where I could start doing things differently and communicating differently and being inclusive, I thought that at a minimum, it would not hurt what we were trying to do. So again, it was an evolutionary process because, like we all know, this is a hierarchical organization. And so you have to be careful and tread lightly on the way. But in all fairness to the leadership, they saw what needed to be done. They knew that there had to be some type of change in the organization if we were going to continue, if we were going to begin to arrest the decline and begin to grow the organization. And they had the vision to say, candidly, we don't have the energy at our age to be able to make this happen. So let's identify someone who possibly could help us down that road. And fortunately for me, I ended up being that one, had no idea, had no inclination that I would be sitting here today as Sovereign Grand Commander, because that was truly not my goal. And I was just want to be a good Scottish Rite Mason, as well as good Ancient Craft Mason. So that's why. That is why.
On a different call, we're going to have a conversation because I've heard about your dedication as Worshipful Master of Geometry back in the day. So like that, people later on, if you ever get a one-on-one with them, ask them about it, because that was eye-opening when somebody walked me through that. So understanding your level of leadership dedication, it might expand upon someone else who you never even know you might come in contact with. So again, I think you said some very valuable things that I think, especially Sublime Princess, as you're going through, because I ran into it. Like, I didn't understand what Scottish Rite Masonry was. I thought it was Ancient Craft Masonry when I got in. So my expectations were different. And I was let down because I didn't speak up and I didn't vocalize and say, well, I don't get this. And I didn't raise my hand, as well as I needed some mentors. And speaking of mentors, again, I told you, I do my research. It's a Michigan man in me. You might be familiar with this individual, Sovereign Grand Commander Samuel Brogdon said, change with change or be changed by change. That's actually my signature as Commander-in-Chief. So moving along into what you were talking about, the next step for the United Supreme Council, kind of what things do you think, besides the some of the inclusiveness, that the USC needs to be able to change or improve upon to ensure their success for the future?
I believe that it was the philosopher Heraclitus that is actually credited with the statement that the only constant in the universe is change. And I'm a firm believer in that. But I'm also a firm believer in that change just for the sake of change can be disruptive. So with that being said, one change that will be critical and allow any member that wants to serve in our United Supreme Council on activities that we are engaged in, from committees to participation in our annual sessions, participating with informing the membership and giving them an opportunity to be seen and to be heard is critical to our work. So last year we implemented a change where we said that we were going to start allowing Sublime Princes to attend our Supreme Council. Now, I'm a firm believer that the greatest recruiter of a sublime prince is another sublime prince, because they will relate to the individuals that they're communicating with. And they need to be in a position where if they're going to go out and help us recruit, reclaim, and retain, then we need to give them the tools to be able to go out and enthusiastically talk about why you want to be a part of the United Supreme Council and be a part of the consistories and the valleys in the Orient. Because the one thing we know is that if people feel ownership in the process, then they will feel like they're not wasting their time. And clearly, young people don't need old folks like me wasting their time. They can waste their own time. And so I have to be understanding enough to know that we need to give them an opportunity. So again, that's what I'm looking at doing, is continuing to move the organization forward and make sure that the membership, when they come in, understand that we are doing something different. And for those who have left, I want them, you all to be able to communicate to them that the Supreme Council you left and the Scottish Rite you left is not the Scottish Rite you're coming back to. So that's my goal. That is my goal.
No, I find that very inspiring, for the simple fact that hopefully in this meeting modium, so people looking at this, Sublime Princes, Grand Inspector General, Sovereign Grand Inspector Generals, share this along when this comes out, pass this along to individuals who are not active, who are not financial, so that they can see that there's actually a change. Because myself, and we'll get into it a little bit, just being on this podcast alone is a testament that they're actually doing what they want to be able to say that they want to be able to do. And now, one thing I was looking at that I was trying to understand is me in my process of coming to this position, I've learned in speaking with individuals that if you're an up and coming leader in the Scottish Rite, sometimes you just might not know how to navigate like certain questions and things of that nature. But if you're a person like a Sublime Prince or Grand Inspector General, and you want to really get engaged and like do some of the things we're talking about, like what are some of the advice or what are some of the tips and tricks or tools that you say individuals like myself should be able to utilize or do to be able to be more of an asset to the United Supreme Council as well as our Orient?
As we continue to modernize our methods of engaging our membership, we will be surveying all to ensure that our outreach efforts are meeting their needs. However, in managing any kind of change and making change, we will, to the best of our ability, also try to ensure that no one is left behind in our process or feel alienated by the changes that we are making. So as the leaders, it is critical that I take everyone's ideas into consideration before making large-scale changes to the organization. Now, while I acknowledge that the demographics of our organization is changing and things are occurring where we are receiving more Gen X, more millennials into our organization, I'm also keenly aware that our membership right now currently skews towards the older members. And therefore, for an example, we're talking about modernizing, taking us from the paper to the computer age by having a lot of the things that we do now put on computers. Well, that's all well and good, and I'm all for that. But at the same time, I have to be cognizant of the fact, because let me give you an example. We're talking about, and I think it was announced by Sovereign Grand Inspector General Darrell Andrews, that this would be the last copy of the bulletin that will be in paper form, and that you would then be going on the computer to get it. Okay, yeah, but I've gotten a lot of feedback from that. Because again, I have to make sure that as a leader, I'm balancing change without alienating those individuals who have been the ones who have undergirded our organization. So it's going to be an evolutionary process and not a revolutionary process as it relates to the changes that we make. Now, we're going there. There's no doubt about that. But at a minimum, I need to be able to provide an adequate transitions for those who are not computer literate to be able to get that. Well, I'm going to make it available for those who need it, maybe for a small fee. We're still working that out. But anyway, those are just examples of the things I think we need to do as an organization to make sure that while we're making the change, we're also aware of those who may be a little afraid of change. So,
no, I like that. So, like I said, we understand, and as we go through, and what I found out too, especially being in my space, I actually enjoy getting the bulletin in paper format, right? Like it's very interesting. It's a sense of pride. I will not be at the level of Sovereign Grand Inspector General Darnell, right? I won't have as many bulletins as him. Hopefully one day, maybe one day, God willing, I can be a beacon of historical content like this man here. But I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a very swift balance between change and then also too, like, how do you increase what you've already done, right? So like not necessarily changing, and not to get too far off topic, but I'm speaking specifically, especially to the Sublime Princes that are going to watch this, is do yourself a favor, speak to the people that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years, figure out what they've done, and then figure out how you can still continue on that legacy. Like I took one of the new bros today on an investigation. Like, no, we're going to go to a person's house. We're going to investigate. We're going to get back to this type of thing, right? Like that what makes people excited about being a Mason. And when I think about Scottish Rite Masonry, I think of elitism, like people being really at the top of their game. So when you interact, they need to know, oh, I'm a Scottish Rite Mason because look how I interact. So that's just my little plug for the Sublime Princes that are watching down the road. Now, I'm going to switch gears because I got your resume from, again, a little birdie. I was pulling resources. And this is just interesting. So some people might not be aware, but you have a bachelor's in public science, a master's in public administrations, a Juris Doctorate, and now a doctorate from Wilberforce. So I want to know, all this education that you have, how did that play a role into your leadership style as well as your leadership philosophy? Because like I said, that's quite an accomplishment. I think we need to be able to acknowledge that as well.
Well, my former education has assisted me in navigating, candidly, the intricacies of organizational dynamics. You know, as politics can be defined as a social institution through which power is accrued and exercised by certain individuals or groups. I believe that leadership requires consensus building and service to others for the benefit of all. That's just my philosophy. So yeah, we have the intricacies of the political process, and everyone wants to be a part of that or try to be a part of that as subtle as they can be. But again, we must understand that whatever we're doing, it must end up being for the benefit of the organization. And so that has helped me, that former education, and I just tend to be more inclusive in looking at differences of opinion and to make sure that people can feel a sense of ownership of the process. I've learned in my corporate life and in the Supreme Council and other walks of life that if you give people an opportunity to be heard, they will feel some ownership in the process, even if their opinions are not ultimately the final result. Because at least they feel, well, I had an opportunity to express my opinion. And I always tell everyone, it's not that your position is wrong. It's just that this is the way that we're going. But I don't dismiss anyone's positions when it comes to that, because again, I want to make sure that everyone feels value in this process. And so my education kind of, gave me that type of understanding on where I should go as a servant leader. I consider myself a servant first and leader second. And in order to be a leader, you must be willing to serve the individuals that you have been honored and privileged to have been given this opportunity to do such. And that's so hopefully it's working. I hope. We'll see.
Hey, I've heard good things, and that just reminded me. My dad gave me a very good quote when I became worshipful master, and he said, "The only reason why you have power is because these people gave it to you."
Yeah,
That's it. And so it was a very like humbling and a very surreal. And I get that same vibe, that same message that you got. Because again, I think this is important for all Sublime Prince, Grand Inspector Generals, Sovereign Grand Inspector Generals to be able to see this and review back and reflect and say, like, hey, servant leadership might be one of the ways to go. And sometimes you do got to be a little bit firm, though. I've learned that as commander in chief. You know, I gotta sometimes gotta get a little, you know what I mean? But it's a balance.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm going to ask a question, right? This is the question when we were setting this up. I talked to Grand Inspector General Gary Smith, and I was just blown away when Sovereign Grand Inspector General Thomas gave me the opportunity and said, like, "Hey, Stephen, I think you can go ahead and host this, right?" I have to ask this question because I know a lot of people are going to wonder, why are you allowing a Sublime Prince to basically not only participate in this, but actually carry and host this podcast and this meme? Like, again, there's so many people that are qualified to be able to do this, besides myself, but kind of like, why allow somebody like myself who's only been in for about 10 years, you know what I mean? Like, why allow me to be able to do this?
Well, again, deeds, not words. If I'm going to talk the talk, then I must walk the talk. And to me, it's a no-brainer. If I'm trying to reach out and let everyone know that regardless of grade or color of crown, they are important to this organization, then that sounds good on a piece of paper. But hopefully when individuals see this podcast and they see Sublime Prince Stephen Barrett running the podcast, interacting with the Sovereign Grand Commander, they can say, wow, this is something different. You know, this is a change of what we've heard about our organization. So again, my thing is that why not you?
Well, again, like I said, I'm humbled. I didn't believe it at first. I was like, maybe this is one of the hazing incidents. You know, you got to come back around, but hey, no, you got to still put in some time, right? Like, we don't know, right? We don't. But no, again, I appreciate it. And hopefully the individuals, when they see this, they can say, hey, because again, I told you, my first council deliberation, you made that statement. I was like, is it really? But then now I'm seeing there's a lot of things that are happening and you truly mean the words that you say and that you speak of. And so I know this would actually hopefully motivate some more individuals to basically kind of like raise their hand, right? So
Yes,
something that came up when I was thinking about this is, if an individual wants to raise their hand or do more within the order, like kind of how should they like navigate this, especially because I know a lot of people are nervous because they don't want to be viewed as like a title chaser or something. You know how it kind of will go. So kind of what advice would you give an individual to like kind of like navigate this space to say, hey, they want to raise their hand, they want to get involved, they want to do more?
well, that's a very easy and simple answer. I encourage all who want to raise their hand to raise their hand. And you can't worry about other people's opinions. The only advice that I would offer is that when you're doing a job, concentrate on the job that you're doing, not looking for any remuneration or whatever. Because trust me, people see the workers versus the talkers. So no one should feel any fear about raising their hand. I believe it was the late great President Nelson Mandela of South Africa who said that our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, but that we are powerful beyond all measure. And that it is our light and not our darkness that frightens us. You know, we ask ourselves, who are we to be brilliant? Who are we to be smart? Who are we to be good? Who are we not to be? So my answer to the Sublime Princes and to all who want to raise their hand, raise your hand, because when you do, you are showing the Supreme Council, first of all, that we have those individuals who are interested in doing and moving your organization forward. So please, if the people who are going to hear this podcast takes nothing else away from it, let them know that we want them. We want them because we don't do the world any favor by shrinking. There's nothing enlightening about that, especially if we're doing so that others will feel comfortable around us. My thing is that I want individuals who want to move the organization forward. So there's nothing wrong with being ambitious as long as you know the purpose for which you are doing what you're doing. The naysayers are going to talk regardless. So please, all under the sound of my voice, know that you have a sovereign grand commander that encourages you to be ambitious, to be bold, because you encourage others to do so if they see that there's no repercussions. And if there are any repercussions, ultimately, I'm sovereign grand commander. And so anyone that feels like that they are not being heard or that they're getting pushed back, I would encourage them to know that I would suggest that you go read, or go listen to the podcast that the Sovereign Grand Commander has just did. And then, I think that they'll get the message, I hope.
No, I believe so. Like I said, our goal is to be able to spread this message because, again, I think this is a testament of where we're going. And being on the education and development department, seeing what they're doing of trying to keep some of the core values of what we had, just freshen up in a different way of you getting it. And I think that's where you're doing an amazing job of what I've seen so far is where we're going to keep the traditions that make us great, but we might need to evolve in some of the ways that we get the job done, right? So you don't lose your core, but you just be able to allow yourself to be a little bit more flexible in certain areas. And what that brings me to is now I've learned doing some research is that the United Supreme Council will be turning 150 in 2031. So I want to know, is there any plans, anything coming? Because this is a huge milestone and we got to celebrate. So I'm just curious. So what might be some of the plans and things you might have for that?
Well, to be candid with you, at this time, there are no plans on the trestle board for the 150th anniversary, but that don't mean that there will not be. But it also seems like to me, in asking the question, that this is a prime opportunity for those who have ideas to engage in the process. Let's face it. I mean, 2031, and the leadership not getting any younger. So again, if there is something that you think we need to do, you put together a committee of individuals that say, guys, look, why don't we step up to the plate? We've been left a legacy by our forefathers. There's time for us to start picking up the ball, and we've got this big anniversary coming up in another 8 years. So why don't we get together and think about what can we do? And then communicate that to the leadership. And the one thing you will know about me is that I will put you to work if you want to work. So again, while there are no plans right now on the trestle board for it, it sounds like a prime opportunity to do so. So again, but with that being said, while we are not doing anything there are just a lot of things going on in your Supreme Council that we are currently engaged in as we continue to enhance the Scottish Rite Experience. And just to name a few, I mean, your Supreme Council now is viewed by not only the Supreme Councils here in the United States, but across the world as a premier Supreme Council. And we are beginning to engage other Supreme Councils from across the globe. We have entered into recognition agreements for Supreme Council of Canada, the Supreme Council of Haiti, the Supreme Council of Argentina, the Supreme Council of Romania, the Supreme Council of France. So just to name a few. So again, but it's because we are engaging in the process. Now, this would probably be something that others would think that, well, you need to concentrate at home. Well, as we continue to grow our organization, we have to take our head from up under the rock and understand that there's a lot of knowledge out there There's a lot that we can learn, but not only that, I want to open up avenues for my membership. Instead of the Arturo Horaces and those individuals from the Southern jurisdiction talking about what they do. Hey, I am as proud of my membership as anyone is. And to the extent that we can open up opportunities for our membership, to show them what Prince Hall is about, that is the reason why we're doing what we're doing. Not that we need their recognition, because we stand on our own, but at the same time, I think that it's incumbent upon us to show the world what Prince Hall Scottish Rite Masonry is all about.
No, that's an interesting one, because this is news to me. I know of some of the stuff I've seen with Haiti, and I've seen some of those things come about with their recent travels. But this is, I think, something monumentous, because I was just talking to another individual, and I let them know like what regularity gets you, right? So being part of a regular, you know what I mean? Like that gets you something else, and that gives you a level of confidence as well as respect. And we walk a little bit different, right? Prince Hall Masons move a little different, is no lie. And then I believe Scottish Rite Masons, Prince Hall of the Northern jurisdiction, we should move a little bit different too as well, with just a sense of pride in these recognition situations, especially with, and this ties in really to my next question, because I was mind blown. We have a consistory, I believe, that's out of the Orient of Europe. Now, I apologize if I mispronounced his name, but it's Caramuso 96.
Yes.
I've seen now over the course of like the year, they've done so many great pieces of work. And it's interesting because when I look at it, their consistory makes up most of Filipinos, right? So that might be a little bit different than what we're used to. So my question to you is like, why do you think they're like, one, gravitating to us, two, like how's the reception? Then like, how's this experience? Because I think more individuals need to know about the great work that they're doing, because they are part of our banner. But I also think that we can learn from them, and it just shows you how vast and how universal Masonry is, especially us. So
absolutely. Now, Caramuso 96 is a consistory that is made up of some of the finest military men in the world. And they have been known for their leadership. And their leadership is not only what they say, but what they do. They leave a footprint where they go. They have participated, in the Philippines and all across the whole Orient of the Far East, in just making sure that they're making a difference. But as I was saying, they have been known for the work that they do. And therefore, these individuals, these indigenous individuals where they are operating, are saying, wow, this is what Masonry is about, as you said. And it made them want to be a part of this great institution, because, brotherly love, truth, and charity is what we do. And so I'm proud of the work that they do. And we need to probably do a better job of highlighting what they do. So yeah, I'm godly proud of what they're doing over at Caramuso number 96.
No, it's amazing. Like I said, I've seen them, one, just from an individual who likes branding and what goes on. Like, I just think they do a phenomenal job, and I think more people can like learn from them. I know I did. So I make sure when they watch this, they know that, hey, I'm giving your props, because you're doing an amazing job. And then one thing, I know we talked a lot about change, so we're going to digest this. What I'm going to do is, by ending this podcast, I'm going to ask a very, very important question. Probably the most important question, especially out of the Orient of Michigan. Now, I got to ask you, are you a Michigan fan or a Michigan State fan? Well, we're going to figure this out right now.
Hey, and I'm not saying just because of the results yesterday, but Michigan maize and blue, brother.
There we go. We're good. See, Sovereign Grand Inspector General Thomas, that's it. We're good. Message sent is message received. Raise your hand. Change is coming. We're great. And Michigan is the #1 school, no matter what. That's everything that we have. So, no, all jokes aside, Sovereign Grand Commander, I really, really do appreciate it. Like I said, I'm extremely humbled and honored that you've given us the opportunity to be able to do this. And our goal, not only with this medium, but everything that we're doing, we're going to try to, like I said, enhance the Scottish Rite experience. right? So before we head off here, I want to leave. Is there any other final thoughts, words that you would like to be able to partake or give to the memberships before we head out?
Absolutely. The first thing I want to do is I want to acknowledge the Education and Development Committee and the work that Sovereign Grand Inspector General Dwayne Thompson and his team have put together for our United Supreme Council. I am godly proud of the work that you're doing, sir, and I want you to know that it is much appreciated. For years, I felt that we were a little behind the Southern jurisdictions just because of the fact that they seem to be more into the education development. Now, I will go anywhere and put the Northern jurisdiction up because of the great work that they are doing. And I would encourage all of the subline princes that there are going to be information that's going to be disseminated through our website on education. And I will let Brother Thomas talk more about that. I try to stay in my lane, but I just wanted to say thank you, sir, for the great job that you're doing. And thank you, Subline Prince, for what you are doing, sir. And I appreciate the fact that you took on the task. And I must say that you hit it out the park, sir. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And what I'll do is I'll bring our fearless leader up here so that he can speak and give some of his final words too as well. So Sovereign Grand Inspector General Thomas, I'm gonna go ahead and add you in here, sir, and go ahead and leave your final words here for us.
Outstanding. Thank you. First of all, Sovereign Grand Commander, Dr. Bazemore, I'd like to personally thank you for your leadership of our beloved United Supreme Council. Sir, you don't need me to tell you this, but you're doing a fantastic job. And your leadership and your foresight and your vision of where we need to take our United Supreme Council is second to none. And, you know, I study leadership and have studied leadership as part of my usual vocation. And you're doing a fantastic job. I also want to thank you for your engaging interview with Sublime Prince Barrett, this evening. I really believe that our membership are going to benefit from the engaging interview and correspondence and back and forth between you and Sublime Prince Barrett. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Sir, we will continue to use this platform. Most of our young people are Sublime Princes. This is how they learn. This is how they communicate. And so we're going to use this to the maximum extent possible, of course, to spread spread our information across our audience, but also to engage our membership in a way that we haven't before. And so, my promise to you is that we're going to continue to do these. We're going to do them monthly. We're going to pick different topics. And I really believe that we're embarking on something that's great. And so thank you for the opportunity to bring this to fruition. When you first appointed me, we kind of talked conceptually on what we were going to do. And from that very first meeting, I knew we were going to do this. And so I finally found the right person to do it. So I'm really happy about that. For all of the members, so we will get this out on a couple different platforms. We're going to post it on the United Supreme Council website. Hopefully it'll be on the homepage, but certainly on the education page. And so we will make sure that everybody has access to it. And also, I want to encourage all of our members to really take the opportunity to go out and see the amount of education and education modules that are available right now. It's absolutely incredible. And it's not me, it's my team. It's the team. It's the education and development team. We put together a plan. We're executing that plan. And I will tell you, you'll be surprised. And I think if you get the opportunity to go out there, you will see that there's a tremendous amount of education that's available now. And more importantly, more to come. And so I'll get off the stage here. Thank you, Sublime Prince. Stephen Barrett, this is your platform. You did a great job this evening.
Thank you. Thank you. And so what we'll do really quickly as we head out here, the last thing that I want to speak about as I have our director of this is, one, thank you for the opportunity. Hopefully it inspires individuals to be able to understand that they can basically raise their hand and to do more, right? So no longer are we going to be in the position where you can sit back and say, well, what about this? What about that? This is going to be proof of concept. And I want to leave some encouraging words, right? I was doing something in a different space and I got tapped to be able to do this, right? I have roughly about 10 to 12 different projects that I've had proposals for that aren't being worked on. So I want to let Sublime Princes, Grand Inspector Generals, Sovereign Grand Inspector Generals know that sometimes what I've learned through this process is it might not be a no, it might be a not right now. So understanding where the need is, there's things that I've done before in the past that like, there's not a need for it right now. So it's not a communication about my level of skill set or what I'm doing. It just is not needed. They needed a podcast. They saw I did a couple different other ones and they called me. So that's the only, you know what I mean? So just understand, don't get discouraged because it's easy to do that because you don't see results right away. But like I said, go to your leadership, raise your hand, be vocal. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is get a mentor. Find somebody here within the Scottish Rite that will help and mold and help develop you, will give you honest feedback. I'm blessed because my mentor group, I put them up against anybody else. And I think that's the reason why I found success, because I'm just moving and they're just kind of guiding me. So make sure everyone, you go onto the United Supreme Council's website. If you have not already signed up for the constant contact, sign up for like the mailer so that you can be informed in this, because there's going to be some things that's come out that might be specifically just for Sublime Princes, just for Grand Inspector General, for Sovereign Grand Inspector Generals. We might have things that be directed, tailored towards you, and it's just the easiest way to get a hold of you. So make sure you do that. Have fun, enjoy your family. And again, it's indeed an honor and a pleasure to be able to work with you. Thank you.